Dignity for All Students Act at Global Concepts Charter School. Your Dasa coordinators are Emily Jones, Michael Fessel, and Anthony McKevich. What is Dasa? The Dignity Act for All Students, or Dasa, was established to protect all students from harassment, bullying, and discrimination. The legislative intent of Dasa. The legislature finds that students' ability to learn and to meet high academic standards, a school's ability to educate its students, are compromised by incidents of discrimination or harassment, including bullying, taunting, or intimidation. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the state to afford all students in public schools an environment free of discrimination and harassment. The purpose of this article is to foster civility in public schools and to prevent and prohibit conduct which is inconsistent with the school's educational mission. The effects of bullying and harassment. 1 in 5 kids experience bullying. 5.4 million students skip school at some point each year due to bullying. 9 out of 10 LGBTQ students experience harassment in schools. More than 1/3 of adolescents report bullying or report bias in school bullying. Students who experience bullying are at a risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school. Prohibits bullying, harassment, discrimination, or cyberbullying, but includes and is not limited to those acts based on a person's actual or perceived race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, or religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, which includes gender identity and expression, or their sex. Bullying, as described, as an unwanted aggressive behavior that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is reported or has the potential to be reported over time. Harassment or bullying means the creation of a hostile environment by conduct or by threats, intimidation, or abuse, including cyberbullying, that either has or would have the effect of unreasonably and sustainably interfering with a student's educational performance, opportunities, or benefits, and or mental, emotional, and or physical well-being, including conduct that threatens, intimidation, or abuse that reasonably causes or would reasonably be expected to cause emotional harm or reasonably causes or would reasonably be expected to cause physical injury to a student or cause a student to fear for his or her physical safety.
Threats, intimidation, or abuse shall include verbal and nonverbal actions. Emotional harm that takes place in the context of harassment, bullying, or cyberbullying means harm to a student's emotional well-being through creation of a hostile environment that is so severe or pervasive as to unreasonably and sustainably interfere with a student's education. Acts of harassment, bullying, or cyberbullying can occur on school property, at a school function, or off school property, where such acts create or would foreseeably create a risk of sustainable disruption within the school environment, where it is foreseeable that the conduct, threats, intimidation, or abuse might reach school property. Cyberbullying occurs when harassment or bullying happens through any form of electronic communication. What are examples of bullying and harassment? Overt examples include verbal and physical harassment. Covert examples include relational or social harassment, cyberbullying, and can also be verbal and physical. Material incident of harassment, bullying, and/or discrimination. A single verified incident or a series of unrelated verified incidents where a student is subjected to harassment, bullying, and or discrimination by a student and or employee. Dasa reporting requirements, illustrative examples. A report of harassment, bullying, and or discrimination may include, but is not limited to, the following examples. A report regarding the denial of access to school facilities, functions, opportunities, or programs, including but not limited to restrooms, changing rooms, locker rooms, and or field trips, or a report regarding application of a dress code, specific grooming or appearance standards, or a report regarding the use of names and pronouns or the pronunciation of names, or a report regarding any other form of harassment, bullying, and or discrimination based on a person's actual or perceived race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, which includes gender identity and expression, or sex. The Crown Act. This is an amendment to the Dignity for All Students Act in 2019 to add definitions. Race shall include traits historically associated with race, including but not limited to hair texture and protective hairstyles. Protective hairstyles shall include but are not limited to such hairstyles such as braids, locks, and twists. The Crown Act. Illustrative examples. Additional illustrative examples of discrimination based on natural hair or hairstyles include a report regarding punishment, differential treatment or humiliation of a student, or exclusion of a student from a school function, athletic team, or school yearbook based on hair texture or protective hairstyle. The request to alter or actual alteration of a protective hairstyle. So Dasa requirements, staff reporting of incidents and complaints. A staff witnesses an incident and or receives a complaint. They are then required to orally report the incidents within one school day to the principal, superintendent, or their designee. Report it in writing within 2 school days after making an oral report. DASA coordinator's form and location. Again, Emily Jones is the DASA coordinator for K-4, Michael Fessel, 5-8, and Anthony Makevich, 9-12. Report forms can be found on our website under the Global Families tab. Paper copies can also be found in the inbox in both main offices of both buildings. Receiving incidents or complaints. A complaint is received. DASA incident reporting forms should be easily accessible to parents, students, and staff on the school district website. All school employees, students, and parents must receive a copy of the reporting process at least annually. DASA prohibits retaliation against any individual who reports or assists in the investigation of harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, or discrimination. Global Concepts Code of Conduct pertaining to DASA. Global Concepts Charter School seeks to create an environment free of harassment, bullying, and discrimination, to foster civility in its schools, and to prevent conduct which is inconsistent with its educational mission. Consistent with that goal, the school prohibits all form of harassment and bullying of students by employees or other students on school property and at school functions. Global Concepts Charter School further prohibits discrimination against students, including but not limited to those acts based on a person's actual or perceived race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or sex by school employees or other students on school property and at school-sponsored activities and events that take place at locations off school property. In addition, other acts of harassment, bullying, and or discrimination which can be reasonably expected to materially and substantially disrupt the education process may be subject to discipline or other corrective action. Students are encouraged to report any incidents to their guidance counselor or a trusted adult. Reports will be investigated and violations will be addressed as appropriate. DASA legislation, verified material incident. This requires that schools take prompt actions reasonably calculated to end the harassment, bullying, or discrimination, eliminate the hostile environment, create a more positive school culture and climate, prevent the reoccurrence of behavior, and ensure the safety of the student. Include a school strategy to prevent harassment, bullying, and discrimination. Additional considerations. Sometimes an investigation is unable to confirm a material incident of harassment, bullying, and/or discrimination. In what ways can you support students even when an incident cannot be designated a material incident? How can parents be informed throughout this process? How can these communications be presented to reassure parents that their students are safe and you are doing everything you can to ensure their safety?
Prevention begins long before an incident occurs. It begins with social emotional learning, culturally and linguistically responsive practices, supportive academic learning environments, safe physical and disciplinary environments, restorative practices, school, community, and family partnerships, as well as mental health education and trauma-informed practices. When we speak of restorative practices, we speak of them offering a more holistic and humane approach to resolving harassment and or bullying situations, aiming for reconciliation and healing while holding individuals accountable for their actions. Restorative practices focus on healing and accountability, empowerment of participants, prevention of reoccurrence, building trust and community, as well as educational opportunities for all involved. Some suggestions for responding to student concerns are to listen, listen, listen. Make sure that you are actively listening to our students. Do not dismiss or make quick judgments. Welcome and affirm complaints. Express concern for student safety. Express determination to keep students safe. Explain the steps that will be taken. And state that parents may need to be informed. What we can continue to do to support students is express concern for the student who was targeted, provide regular check-ins, have increased supervision for the victim and for the perpetrator, speak to student who possibly bullied and put them on notice that we're watching them and increasing our supervision on them, increase staff awareness, clear directions for whom to report to, enlist support from other students, and communicate. Communicate is one of the biggest things that we can do. We can communicate internally the plan to protect and support the student who was targeted. Some contact information if you're interested. Here's the NYSED Office of Student Support Services and the New York State Center for School Safety. There's a lot of resources on this website that you can check out. And so now we're going to go into some scenarios. I'm going to read a scenario for you, and then I'll let you know what the response could be. On TikTok, Dean posts a video imitating Claudia, a girl of Asian descent, by pulling his eyelids to a squint. Is this covered by the Dignity Act? Yes, this is cyberbullying. Even if it's off of school property, it is foreseeable that the effects may reach school property and that Claudia is going to need to be someone who we support. Scenario 2. A student is being repeatedly teased by a classmate for being short. Is this considered harassment under the Dignity Act? The definitions of harassment and discrimination in the law were not intended to be inclusive of the protected classes identified in the Dignity Act. For example, although height is not specifically cited in the law, a student harassed for being tall or short would be protected. Harassment of any kind is prohibited. A teacher is constantly humiliating Tasha in front of her classmates. She yells at her, "You're failing, so I don't know why you bother to come to school." Is this considered harassment under the Dignity Act? The teacher is creating a hostile, degrading, and humiliating environment that may impact or negatively be impacting a child's learning. So yes, of course, it is covered under Dasa. Some additional resources for you. These are all good resources to look into, some anti-bullying pledges and different resources that you can use to support victims and also help resolve some of the behaviors that we're seeing from that other child as well. And that concludes our DASA report. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact your DASA coordinator. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.